The show follows the protagonist Jisoo, a young woman who works in an ad agency where she is well liked by her coworkers. They know her as a hardworking and caring woman who always goes out of her way to help everyone. This has made her a really popular figure in the organization. However, they are unaware that their sweet coworker is a grade A manipulator who has tricked them into liking her. One day while going to get a regular coffee, Jisoo gets asked out by a young barista named Jiho. What the naive barista doesn't know is that Jisoo has had her eyes on him since the first time they met. She is a passionate woman and will pursue any man who catches her gaze. But instead of showing him that she's interested, she kept subtly attracting his attention until he began to like her. Now that her plan has come to success, she pretends to be surprised and agrees to go out with him, even though she has a boyfriend. Jisoo uses her manipulations not only on Jiho, but also on her boss, Teo. Since Teo is a work-oriented man unlike the sunny barista, Jisoo appeals to him by pretending to be a hard worker who is always one step ahead of her colleagues. Acting sweet and reliable, she succeeds in making him ask her out as well. Not caring about all the other men she's associated with, she happily agrees to go out with him. But before her date with Teo, she shows courtesy enough to break it up with her current boyfriend. Being straightforward with her feelings, she tells her boyfriend that she has a crush on someone else. He is heartbroken, but she doesn't seem to care. The next day, Jisoo and Teo go to a bar for some drinks and talk about their lives and interests until the bar closes. They have a good time and figure out by the end of the night that they get along very well. Teo is in a very good mood the next day, even giving out smiles in the meeting room because of Jisoo's antics. Everyone in the room is shocked since Teo is always cold and aloof, never caring for anything other than work. No one has ever even seen him smile until today. All the employees gossip behind his back, but Jisoo doesn't care, as she is too busy flirting with Jiho through texts. Jiho is supposed to be attending his college farewell party, but unexpectedly he gets tempted because of Jisoo's flirty texts and ditches the party to come to her office. She is pleasantly surprised to see him standing in front of her office building and decides not to pass up this opportunity to flirt. The scene goes back in time to Jisoo's high school days to show that she has always been entangled with many men. She is a school heartthrob who has boys fighting for her attention every day. She loves all the attention and is happy to see men fighting over her. Her popularity has never given her any trouble, and she is good at maintaining friendships as well. We are then introduced to her best friend, Hyun-woo, who she met during her time in school. Back in the present, he's a police officer, and their friendship is still strong after many years. On their days off, Jisoo and Hyun-woo visit a comic cafe to hang out. He knows all about her habit of dating and throwing away men at will. But even then, he has still been nursing a secret crush for her for over 10 years. He disapproves of her lifestyle, but is still willing to hear the stories about her misadventures. Jisoo hides nothing from him, as he is the only one who knows her true self. She shows him pictures of both Teo and Jiho, asking him to choose between the two of them because she herself is confused. When Hyun-woo refuses to help, Jisoo in turn refuses to tell him her decisions. In the end, she decides to date both of them at the same time. The day after confirming their relationship, Teo and Jisoo are both very happy, but they cannot make the relationship public at work. When Jisoo and her team almost mess up at a meeting, Teo still acts like her boss and reprimands her. But once everyone else leaves the room, they act like lovers. One time, when they are getting all snuggly, an employee suddenly enters the room unannounced. The two of them then fly backwards to separate and act like the boss is scolding his subordinate. Thankfully, their acting is good enough for the employee to believe. That night, Teo drives Jisoo home after work. Jiho keeps calling her, but she can't pick up the phone in front of Teo, so she makes up a lie about it being a spam caller. The atmosphere inside the car grows heavy as the two of them start making out. Seeing how things are escalating, Teo wants to go to her apartment, but Jisoo quickly makes up an excuse and makes him drive back after promising to invite him over some other time. The reason why she can't bring Teo to her apartment is because Jiho is already inside waiting for her. He cooks her a tasty meal and says that he has a surprise for her. Jisoo's curiosity is piqued, but he claims that it's a secret. After Jiho leaves and she retires to her bed, she gets on a call with one of her friends. Her friend warns her about two-timing, but Jisoo is confident that she won't get caught because her two boyfriends are neither similar in age or are in the same field of work, so it's impossible for them to know each other. And even if she does get caught, she can just break up with both of them very easily. The next morning, Jisoo's confidence all but crumbles to the floor. She watches in horror as Teo welcomes the new employee, who turns out to be Jiho. Before Jiho has a chance to act like he knows her, Jisoo wakes up from her trance and drags him to a secluded place with the excuse of having to talk with him as his senior. She tells him that they should keep their relationship a secret for his own good because she doesn't want others to think that he got his job with his connections. Jiho is a little skeptical, but he obediently agrees to her request. But just as she finds that he hasn't signed his work contract yet, she starts dissuading him from working there. She expresses her worries about him joining such a competitive environment straight out of college. But her persuasion has the opposite effect, as he now wants to work there more than ever so that he can help Jisoo with her work and lessen her burden. Failing to convince Jiho, she switches her target to Taeho. She talks about Jiho's inexperience and hints that they should hire someone more mature. But unfortunately, Taeho is greatly impressed by Jiho's talents and is eager to have him join the team. Jisoo complains about the crisis to Hyun-woo, but he believes that it's just her karma for playing around too much. He advises her just to break up with both, but she still doesn't want to. She just has to endure the next 2 months until the project is over, and then her two boyfriends will have no reason to interact as much. But this is just wishful thinking. She quickly notices that Taeho and Jiho get along quite well together, which makes her worry even more. If they get closer as friends, then it might be obvious that they would talk to each other about romantic relationships. And if that happens, then Jisoo is truly fucked. So the only way she can save both her relationships is by sabotaging their friendship. An opportunity comes to her in a meeting when Taeho reprimands Jiho for speaking out of turn. She first goes to Taeho to complain about Jiho's immaturity, and while walking back home, she complains to Jiho about Taeho's cold-heartedness. Her plan actually works because the next day, the two men start avoiding each other. Too busy worrying about her relationship and trying to keep herself from being exposed, Jisoo ends up neglecting her health. She catches a minor cold, but Taeho is still worried about her, so he gives her a leave and sends her back home to rest. She gratefully takes the leave and calls Hyun-woo to complain about her health, but he is too busy with his own job, so he can't come help her. It's not a big problem for Jisoo, since she has several men trying to take care of her. Jiho takes a leave from the office to take care of her while she's sick. He cooks her a light porridge and brings her medicine. Jisoo is moved by his caring actions, so she starts acting extra flirty and sweet towards him. But their time is interrupted by the doorbell. Assuming that it's just a delivery, Jiho walks to open the door, but right then, Jisoo notices messages on her phone from Taeho saying that he is coming to visit her. She immediately dashes after Jiho, but he has already opened the door. Thankfully, it's not Taeho who is outside, but just a bag of food on the doorstep delivered by Hyun-woo. Jisoo's body goes limp with relief, but it's not time to let her guard down just yet, as Taeho is still on his way. She quickly kicks Jiho out of her house, making up a lie about her mother visiting. She then sprints back to her apartment just in time to open the door for Taeho and invite him in. After a few days pass, the two-timing starts taking a toll on her. So much so that even Hyun-woo notices her fatigue. Before this, she never lied to any of her boyfriends and was always true to herself. Hyun-woo is worried about her, and he says so. She takes his words to heart and heads to the office, where more trouble is awaiting her. She has been screwing up work these last few days, and her carelessness has caused a great emergency for her team. Adding on to the work problems, Taeho suspects Jiho has feelings for Jisoo, so he tells her to draw a clear line between the two of them. Jiho is also slowly becoming aware of the ambiguous atmosphere between Jisoo and Taeho. Both of them are jealous, and they turn hostile towards each other. After a long day of solving problems at work, the three of them go for a round of drinks, setting aside their differences for now. As the conversation suddenly shifts to their girlfriends, Jisoo feels her stomach start hurting again. She can't endure the overwhelming guilt, so she blurts out the truth about two-timing them. Of course, the two men don't take it well, especially Jiho, who thought he was experiencing his first real relationship. Jisoo knows that the right thing to do is to now let them vent and curse at her, but she can't handle her stomachache anymore. After giving a sincere apology, she rushes back home to lie down on her bed. Things are incredibly awkward at the office the next day. Taeho and Jiho are set on ignoring her as much as possible. It's the first time she's felt heartbroken after a relationship ended. She likes the two of them equally and wholeheartedly, but she is ready to accept any decision they make. While the two men go to a bar to discuss their feelings, Jisoo joins Hyun-woo at a local restaurant and pours out her frustration. Seeing her so low, he feels bad, so he gives her a few comics as a gift. She's happy to receive them, but they're not enough to distract her. Right at that moment, she gets a call from Jiho, who asks her to meet outside. Thinking he's going to break up with her, Jisoo lifelessly walks away from the restaurant to meet him, but to her surprise, Taeho is also present at the spot. They are not there to break up with her, but to ask her to continue to date both of them. But they have a condition. She must choose one of them at the end of their 2-month project. Jisoo is overjoyed to hear this, and she readily agrees. All this time, Hyun-woo is waiting for her to come back to the restaurant, but she never picks up his calls. The next day is the most relaxing day Jisoo has had in a while. The two men try their best to court her and don't miss any opportunity to flirt with her. While basking in the attention of her boyfriends, Jisoo suddenly remembers Hyun-woo and how she left him hanging the other day. She hurriedly texts him between meetings and tells him to come to her office to pick her up after work. She has a lot to talk to him about. Hyun-Hyu agrees, even though he feels increasingly frustrated by her these days. Jisoo has always been like this. She always makes plans with him before promptly ditching him to hang out with other boyfriends. However, he's in love with her, so he's helpless against her selfish requests. When night falls, he makes his way to pick her up. But right in front of her office, he sees her laughing with Tae-oh and Ji-ho, and he suddenly can't bear it anymore. He needs to stay away from Jisoo if he wants to keep himself from getting hurt. So that night, he severs his friendship with Jisoo. Jisoo is deeply saddened by his words, so much so that her sadness is even felt over the phone. Worried about her, Tae-oh and Ji-ho rush to her apartment at once in order to comfort her. The three of them watch horror movies and play games all night. Jisoo is having so much fun that she wishes the three of them would stay together this way forever. But while her two boyfriends go to sleep, her mind once again diverts to Hyun-Hyu, who has not contacted her in a week. The next few days, she tries her best to enjoy her time with her boyfriends, but she can't help but compare them to Hyun-Hyu. She realizes that no one in her life can take his place. One night, she has a dream where she is walking with Tae-oh and Ji-ho by her side. It's a pleasant day until she sees Hyun-Hyu meeting a woman and walking away with her. Jisoo jolts out of her nightmare and has a sudden realization. She runs to Hyun-Hyu's apartment still wearing her pajamas and starts banging on his door. He is startled to see her at his doorstep and is even more shocked when she suddenly leans in to plant a kiss on his lips. He is left speechless. By the time he comes back to his senses, Jisoo is already on her way back to her own apartment. He refuses to let her leave without giving him answers, so he chases after her. When he confronts her about the kiss, she confesses that she likes him. And for a moment, he's on cloud nine. He says that he likes her too and asks her to date him. But he refuses to be like Tae-oh and Ji-ho and asks her to break up with them first. After all this, Jisoo is still indecisive. She doesn't want to break up with her boyfriends because she likes them too. Hyun-Hyu understands her better than anyone else, but can't help but feel disappointed. How can he expect to be simple lovers with Jisoo, of all people? So he parts ways with her, perhaps forever. Jisoo is so depressed that she skips work the next day and refuses to contact anyone. Tae-oh and Ji-ho try to get in touch with her throughout the day, but she neither replies to their texts, nor does she pick up their calls. Worried sick, they go to her home after work, but she's not there. Tae-oh tries to call her one last time, when unexpectedly, the call connects and she picks up her phone. She doesn't speak, but he can hear the sound of glass shattering before she ends the call. Tae-oh is immediately alarmed that something bad has happened to her. Ji-ho proposes that they should first check the restaurant where she frequents, and the two run to her rescue. At this time, Jisoo is at her favorite restaurant doing shots of alcohol, thinking about how her relationship with Hyun-Hyu has suddenly gone sour. While she's trying to drink her misery away, she unexpectedly runs into her ex-boyfriend, who she dumped last month, before she started dating Tae-oh and Ji-ho. He still hasn't forgiven her for what she did, and feels satisfied to see her misery. She tries to apologize again, but he yells that he doesn't want her apology. Because of her, he now has a hard time trusting people, and will probably never be able to fully trust any woman in the future. As he is letting out his frustrations, Tae-oh and Ji-ho finally find her and run to protect her from the man. At first, the two are hostile towards Jisoo's ex, but when the man takes it further with his insults, the hostility escalates into a physical fight. Jisoo desperately tries to stop them, but she's helpless. Thankfully, Hyun-Hyu turns out to be heading to the same restaurant, so he quickly breaks up the fight with the help of his fellow police officer. Someone secretly records their fight, and the video explodes on the internet overnight. The next day, Tae-oh and Jisoo are immediately called to the director's office, where he harshly reprimands them. Tae-oh loses his spot as leader of their project, and Jisoo is made the new impromptu leader. Furthermore, the director orders them to fire Ji-ho right away. Jisoo is flooded with guilt. Even if Tae-oh consoles her by saying that it's not her fault, she knows that everything is a result of her two-timing. The next day, she makes up her mind to break up with both Tae-oh and Ji-ho. She cannot bear to see the two men she loves suffering because of her brash choices, so it's better to let them go. The two men are heartbroken, and so is Jisoo, but they decide to move forward. After breaking up with them, Jisoo goes immediately to talk with the director. It involves a lot of begging and convincing, but she manages to make him reinstate Tae-oh as the leader of the team and saves Ji-ho from being fired. The three of them work together to finish the project. Jisoo works especially hard, and in a blink of an eye, the project is completed and is a success. While the team is celebrating, Jisoo also thinks that it's a good ending for both the project and her relationships. That day, she quietly turns in her letter of resignation and walks away to find a new beginning. The scene skips to a few months later. Jisoo has found a new job and her life is flourishing. Among all the good things, she is happiest about her relationship with Hyun-Hyu. He loves her the way she is, and she loves the way he is easily able to understand her. They spend their time together acting sickeningly sweet in front of their friends and playing around in Jisoo's apartment. The story ends at a park where Hyun-kyu lets go of Jisoo's hand with a smile, letting her leave with another man. He accepts everything about Jisoo, even her fickle feelings of affection. He knows Jisoo can't live without him, and he can't live without her. So he feels satisfied with this kind of open relationship.